Prakash Tiwar, our expert, has joined in, and the first question we'll be asking you, Prakash, first good morning, of course, will be on Bandhan and Gruh and HDFC.
Oh, okay.
But before that, let's just listen in to all those important people in the triad, and then we are coming back with questions to Prakash.
The synergies between Gruh and Bandhan are much, much greater than the synergies between HDFC and Gruh. We both are concentrated in Western India. We have branches close to each other, and our average loans are coming down because of the government incentives. Earlier there was a gap. Now we are competing with Gruh. You cannot compete with a subsidiary of yours where you have 58%. There is conflict of interest. I'm very optimistic on housing finance because everyone wants a home, and government had made it easier by giving incentives. Government has made it easier to developers. Build small homes and you don't pay any tax on gains, on profits. Which industry in India, which major industry is tax-free? Now, the reason the government has done it obviously is to build more, incentivize developers to build smaller homes rather than larger homes. And we see a shift, even the big builders. In the last 2 years, we've seen the process takes time because you have to identify land, prepare plans, get different approvals. Approvals take a long time. So I expect in the next 3 to 5 years, there'll be a massive boom in affordable homes, homes 25 to 50 lakhs, below 50 lakhs.
And after evaluating various options, we found that a merger with Bandhan probably makes more sense for a shareholder or a stakeholder in Gruh than anything else. Coming first to why it makes sense from a Gruh shareholder's perspective, this will create a very large lending platform for rural and semi-urban parts of the country, a very large lending platform. By creating a combination between the two, you will create, one, you will improve from a Gruh shareholder's perspective, you will reduce the cost of funding because as a bank, Gruh will now have access to lower cost funding, which is typically what a bank would have compared to someone like a Gruh. Bandhan will benefit from the fact that Gruh has, over the years, created such a strong platform for housing loans. Very strong operating systems, legal systems, technical systems, basically strong systems in housing loans. So Bandhan benefits from that, and Bandhan also benefits from Gruh's very large penetration in Western India.
Our as a stake of the NOFH is 82%. It will become to 40%, and out of that, 42% should be like to reduce and come to 40%. So in this the transaction, it will be helped on that to reduce the 21%. Right. That means half of that dilution has come. Yeah. So we have a good plan, constructive plan on that, but we need also the very good types of opportunities. We cannot be immediately like to do it on that. So we are working on that very constructively, and we are making the good strategy how quick we are like to compliance to 40%. There is this is in different types of option is there. Option is to this, offer to sell, and many others on that. So it is not in the one option we are strategically decided on. So that one option we have been now taken, and some other options step by step will be like to go. But to not say that everything will be like to merger, not like that. We are trying to diversify in a different way.
Okay. Well, that's what the big three had to say. Prakash, first thoughts, the arithmetic discount is 8%. For Gruh, if you compared it to yesterday's closing price.
Yeah, but it's at the premium at a 6-month average. So about 2.5%. And in any case, Gruh has always been so richly valued to give a premium beyond what it's already valued at, about 12 to 15 times price to book, would have been a bit outlandish. So, I think the key takeaway in this whole story is East meets West, and the kind of expansion that they could organically now beyond this merger take forward. That's something.
Would you be a
interesting.
buyer of Bandhan then?
Not as yet. In fact, as a matter of disclosure, I am a Gruh shareholder.
Okay.
So I'm
you
wondering,
get Bandhan shares.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, how do I kind of look at that holding? Because Gruh was a very different animal, and the combined entity is going to be different. They do seem to be on paper a lot of advantages there, but then all best laid plans need to also get executed. So you have to give that discount to the execution risk that's now going to be overhanging. Yeah.
So Kunal Shah from Edelweiss is also with us on this conversation. Kunal, good morning. So the question is, for the Bandhan Bank shareholder, I mean, is this a good deal? You've bought a business which is fairly expensive. Now what for the Bandhan shareholder?
No, so for Bandhan, so particularly with respect to the promoter shareholding, they were looking to at some inorganic opportunity, and given their entire product portfolio, they were looking out in the secured space, and GRU is say a much better asset, say in this particular space. So that really helps them. I think strategically, again, when you look at the overall portfolio mix between the secured and the unsecured, so post this, when you look at it, unsecured would come down to 58% from 86%. Plus, they will get presence outside of East. So today, Eastern and the Northeastern region is where Bandhan is significantly present, but this will give a reach out of that particular, say, the eastern part of it, eastern belt, and they could penetrate on the western side. Okay. So for Bandhan, this should be strategically from a longer-term perspective, definitely it helps.
Synergistic. 1 minute, Kunal, just to mention that the markets have opened, and it's a bit confusing, as confusing as the SGX Nifty actually. It's flat to marginally lower for the Nifty and flat to marginally higher for the Sensex. So you take your pick how you want to interpret this. The rupee has opened also pretty flat only. It is 69.80. I think that's a little weaker. The dollar is stronger by about 0.1, 0.2%. Not a very big change in the rupee either. So we'll wait by to see if they settle down. Kunal, what will you do with your Bandhan? What is your advice on Bandhan? There is an overhang. HDFC has to sell at least 5%, if not 10%, if RBI insists that you can't hold more than 5%. As well, Bandhan's own shareholders, the promoter shareholder, has to come down from 61 to 40. Will all that tell on the share? What's your price?
So we don't have Bandhan Bank under our coverage, okay, so would not be able to comment on that in terms of either the view or in terms of the price point for that.
Okay, yeah, let me take that to you, Prakash. I mean, for the Bandhan shareholder, yeah, I mean, what does this mean? And do you see the stock getting, out of its trading band? Do you see it sort of reclaiming highs now that this deal is finally done and at least one step closer to taking care of this promoter issue?
Well, absolutely. So there are a couple of things that this, this merger achieves, ends up achieving. And for the first is, this whole overhang of the dilution that was to happen. And if that were to happen from an all-cash deal, it would have been fairly difficult. You would have had leverage coming in. You would have uncertainty in terms of how that the return ratios would pan out. Here you have an ongoing, existing pedigreed business that you combine yourself with, and there's no overlap. There's no conflict of interest. There's no rationalizing, streamlining. From day one, you could actually start performing the way you would want to. And fundraising for GRU has never been a challenge, but what it does now is that it opens up a new segment of buyers of affordable housing loans, which organically was difficult because the cost of sales is going up rapidly for high quality businesses. And then we've seen that how Repco, the cost of sales has gone up, not necessarily the book size. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the first thing that this merger. The second thing is, for HDFC Limited, GRU was always a great business that needed scale up. And that didn't happen. So, there was no way they could do it unless they could have brought this whole thing under their own HDFC Limited. Yeah. But that, as Mr. Parekh and Mr. Mistry explained, could probably have led to a little bit of overlaps. And this has also avoided that. So I think it will end up being win-win for Bandhan shareholders for sure. GRU, there will be a little bit of dilution and it will take a little bit of the... It'll take the sheen off, because it's no more the same company that it used to be till yesterday. It's
no longer a bride. It is marriage. So that premium is what is going off. So at the moment, it's not just an 8% correction to the valuation, the arithmetic valuation. It's going even further. It's 10% lower at the moment, Gruh, because, what will be the ratio? What will be the ratio? That surprise element is over now. So Gruh is falling rather rapidly. I mean, it was always completely an overvalued stock at even the second quarter levels. It was 13 times book, price to book. That's a very tall price. So some of that will start getting creamed down. In any case, that 8% discount would be worked in. Over and above that, there is a creaming off for this, expectations that had been built up when the merger talk was broken by Nisha Podar, our colleague. So all that is working in. Bandhan has fallen just a bit. I thought it was a 1% fall. That's the usual overhang. See, Bandhan had that overhang all the time. Even before you knew that 82% had to come down to 40. So there will be that level. And Bandhan also is richly valued. HDFC is the only one that is in the green, and one can understand that because they have sold their asset at a tidy price. Kunal Shah, view on HDFC.
No, so HDFC, I think if they have to shed out another 5% that I think that would lead to almost like 4,000 crores of profit for them at the combined market cap. And I think it's when you look at it, they have been able to sell out GRU at a great valuation, and as was highlighted by the management yesterday, maybe they would look at maybe getting into the low-cost housing segment more aggressively. So, in fact, that should help overall for HDFC in terms of the growth momentum than what we had seen earlier. So I think for HDFC overall seems to be, and the overall environment, the way it is emerging when, say, there is too much of a tight liquidity and other players are slowing down. So that any which ways is advantageous to HDFC.
Absolutely. Point taken. Thank you very much, Kunal Shah, for joining us. So HDFC is the one that's gaining a bit, 0.6% higher, but also gaining our bond yields. That's a bit of a surprise because yesterday as well we had a $58 per barrel crude, and the governor only seemed to reiterate that they want probably neutral liquidity and not surplus liquidity. That also was not a surprise. It came at 1 o'clock yesterday. What are the new? Why is the bond yield climbing further to 7.51? And what's the trajectory ahead? We have Manish Vadhavan, head of fixed income global markets at HSBC India, joining us. Manish, bond yields climbing relentlessly. What is your range now?
Lata, morning. I think bond yields are reacting to yesterday's statement by the governor saying that he won't allow liquidity to be termed as loose money. So there is some kind of a doubt in markets that whether the OMOs would continue beyond January end, as we see liquidity also getting into a surplus mode in the month of Jan end and February because of these OMOs being conducted. So this is, I think, adjusting to the new reality, and over a period of time, it should adjust if the new, the OMOs are supposed to stop, because we've seen one of the largest OMO operations in this year in the last 10 years. So that has suppressed the bond yields quite a lot. That, I think, would adjust. Whether it is 7.5 or 5-10 basis points here or there, that would depend on the other matrices like inflation and what kind of borrowing program do we see. And I think today's reaction, what you were mentioning, could be also linked to the new 10-year bond announced by RBI yesterday. So it's switching into the new 10-year, and the old 10-year goes up a bit.
Okay, of course, more OMOs, 50,000 per month, that'd be music to the government's ears. I think government that's anyway looking to shore up its own sort of balance sheet and take care of its own fiscal issues. Speaking of which, Manish, good morning. Is there a number that right now you are kind of penciling in your estimates when it comes to this farm package? Now, whether it's a universal basic income scheme or some kind of a largesse ahead of elections, is there a number in your mind?
There is, it's very difficult. We are also reading in the press whatever is going around, but the numbers are floating between 50,000 to 3 lakh crores. But, it's very difficult to pencil anything at this point of time. The only factors which we would look at is government has been very prudent in terms of its fiscal deficit targets, and they have maintained, more or less what they have committed. And also, so I would expect that there may not be a very large slippage on that account. Secondly, on legality also, because it's a vote on account now in this year, so I don't know how will it be possible to get approval for a very large new expenditure, what we are talking about. So I think we'll have to look into the finer details, what comes out of that. It could be, over the period of next 3 years, 2 years, or something which is impacting next year budgets. So this year, if the amount is around 40,000-50,000 crores, that will be taken in stride. If the amount is very large, that would definitely have a negative impact on bond yields also.
It's one thing to be fiscally disciplined and show statesmanship when you have a 335 majority and crude is on an average at $50 for four out of your 5 years. And it's quite another to be able to show statesmanship when you're ahead of a poll, which is going to be stiffly contested. And you've just lost 3 state elections and crude has just snaked up from $50 to $58. Okay, Manish, I think I just want one number or range in your mind for the 10-year, but more importantly, rupee. Where do you see that one headed, or will it just be a prisoner to crude?
Rupee, I think, Lata, there are 4 or 5 factors which you will have to look at, and then I'll come down to where do we expect rupee to trade. First would be what kind of, there is a talk after Fed's Powell speaking about the future course of rate hikes in US. You could see some kind of dollar stability or mild dollar weakness also. That would play for INR. Second thing would be oil prices, as you mentioned. If it's around 50s, it definitely helps. Thirdly, the more important factor would be what RBI does if the rupee appreciates towards 68. I think we expect RBI to intervene in terms of buying dollars because they have already used up a kitty of around $45 to $48 billion through their reserves in the last 6 or 9 months. That would be a backstop for rupee. So even if rupee is appreciating because of dollar weakness or other factors what we talk about, you would see, I believe that RBI would be definitely collecting more dollars to add up to its reserves. And finally, on the FPI front, I think it's going to be a quarter where you can see stable or what would I say, neutral flows. We don't expect any major inflows or outflows. So net-net, I think rupee has an appreciating bias, but would be curtailed by the RBI intervention.
Okay, all right. Thanks very much for joining us with your take on the bond market and what we can expect even on the currency.